Good evening, folks. I'm really excited to share with you the 5 steps I took to scale my professional services business from 6 to 7 figures in 3 years. And I'm relatively new to YouTube. My name's Calvin Cummings, CEO of Founder2X, and this is my 12th video in my first 2 weeks on YouTube. So if you like the content, please subscribe. We really appreciate it. Okay, well, starting off with step number 1 is education. I'm a firm believer in personal growth and development. And in the business realm, they don't teach you a lot in typical universities or colleges on how to build a successful business. So it's kind of up to one to educate themselves. And I did that by reading a bunch of books. I've had a couple other videos that I posted sharing the books that I read. I also have a top best-selling book reading list on my website at calvincummings.com if you want to check it out. It's divided up by different categories, but 2 of the really influential books at the very beginning for me was Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited and Daniel Murphy's Becoming a Strategic Business Owner. And, those books really helped me make a major paradigm shift to my mindset from being, a commercial real estate appraiser to being an appraisal business owner. And it's a totally different mindset from being a technician professional working in your business as a professional, as the key marketing or salesperson, to actually being the business owner working on your business. So, I credit the books I read in the beginning. I'll mention another one with step 2 here in a second. But the other thing I did, which I think is hugely important, is I invested in coaching. And I won't bore you with a list of all of the different coaching programs and coaches that I worked with over a 10, 12-year period. But I invested over $100,000 in high-end coaching over about a 12-year period. And I just knew that I was not going to be able to do this on my own without some help from somebody and some people that had done it before, that really know how to build successful businesses, how to create the right frameworks, build the right systems, get the right people, how to become a leader, how to instill professional management systems into your business. So I kept searching for coaches and coaching programs that could really help me at each level take it to the next level. And as you'll see on this chart, I grew from 321,000 in 2010 to 733,000 in 2011, 961,000 in 2012, and I finally broke $1 million at $1,162,000 in 2013. But then you'll see a drop back to $1,020,000 in 2014, and that basically brought to my attention that I needed to learn more about marketing. So at each one, you'll see another 3-year growth period from $1,020,000 to $1,141,000 to $1,365,000 to $1,539,000 in 2017, and then another drop off. And then finally, kind of like a final growth curve from $1,528,000 up to $1,821,000 in 2021, which was 11 years in, and we sold the business in 2022 in November, but we were on a run rate of just shy of $2 million. So going from 2010 at 321,000 to nearly 2 million 12 years later was a little bigger than a 17% compound annual growth rate, which is a pretty good growth rate for a small professional services business. And I attribute all of that really to education and accountability, reading subsequent books to change my mindset, change my paradigm, look at different options that I could employ in the business. So that's kind of step number 1, is self-education. Step number 2 is goal setting. one of the books, two of the books that I read were by Jim Collins. One was Good to Great, and I followed that up with Built to Last, which really it was a research study that he and his group did on some of the top performing companies at that time, and what enabled them not only to grow and succeed, but to sustain that. And one of the concepts in that book was what he called a big, hairy, audacious goal. And he used an example of John F. Kennedy back in the, I guess it was the 50s or 60s, with the moon shot and putting a man on the moon. And President Kennedy made a statement that, you know, by the end of this decade, we're going to put a man on the moon. And it was absolutely kind of out of the realm of possibility, to be quite honest, at that point in time, with where technology was, where the rockets and just everything having to do with going out into outer space was in such an infancy state that it was almost an impossible dream. Collins also uses the example of Martin Luther King with, his famous speech, I have a dream, really about a time in this country and around the world when disadvantaged and people that have been discriminated on would actually be looked at as equals and have fair treatment and really have equality in society. And anyway, so, he kind of threw out a challenge that if you really wanted to grow a great business, you should consider writing your own big, hairy, audacious goal or your own BHAG. So I took that seriously. I took a little time off, and I went off by myself, and I wrote a BHAG that was like 30 years hence, where my company, Cummings Appraisal Group, Inc., was going to become basically the biggest and greatest commercial real estate appraisal organization in the world. And you could call that wishful thinking or just a dream, but it was absolutely amazing what actually happened as a result of that. And I'll get into that here in this next point. So, goal setting has been a really huge thing with my success and the success of my business, and also hopefully what I'm doing here online with Founder 2X. The third step really had to do with marketing. Back in June of 2010, I did a seminar for the Southern California chapter of the Appraisal Institute down in Orange County. I was up in Los Angeles, and I went down to Orange County to a fairly large room with about 100 people in it, and I did a seminar called How to Systemize Your Appraisal Business. If you Google it, you may actually find the PowerPoint online. It's probably way down below the fold, but I shared at that point in time what I had been doing to actually systemize my appraisal business, the software systems that we had developed and were using, and that caught the attention of an MAI designated appraiser down in Orange County, who fortunately for me introduced me to a visionary back in the Boston area who had the brainchild for what would ultimately become Valbridge Property Advisors, and asked me if I'd like to be included on a short list of MAIs that were being considered for that opportunity. And I said yes. I got a long form email sales letter from this gentleman back in Boston, and it looked very exciting to me. And so I, along with 18 other MAIs, sent this gentleman some money, sight unseen. He hired a startup attorney. We all met in Cambridge, Massachusetts in June of 2011, and they asked me to lead the initial organizational meeting, which was 2 days. I did that. We formed a board of 9 people, elected a chairman of the board, created about 13 committees, and I came back to LA, hired a full-time person, and my office became the initial headquarters for Valbridge Property Advisors. It wasn't named Valbridge Property Advisors yet. That was still to come. But I threw myself into it, helped set the company up, was kind of the front man promoting the venture, helped grow it from 18 to 40 firms within 12 months, and the rest is history. Valbridge became one of the largest commercial real estate appraisal organizations in the country, which at the peak had about 50 firms with 80 offices. During that time, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what our brand was going to be. And I ultimately brought in a marketing expert that had worked with both CBRE with the rebranding of CB Commercial to CBRE Group, as well as with LoopNet. And we brought him in. We'd spent months trying to come up with a name and a URL and a domain. And this gentleman, Kerry Braisman, was able to help us take down the domain valbridge.com and helped us come up with the final brand name of Valbridge Property Advisors. He then helped us in the initial days with the initial branding and the rollout when we went live with our website in I believe it was 2012 or 2013, I believe. So anyway, I didn't get involved to help build a national company. I did get involved to help build a national brand that I could leverage with my local firm. So what's the upshot of this for you if you're watching this video? Coming up with a really good brand name that you can use not just locally, but regionally and hopefully nationally, if not maybe international, depending, is a really smart thing to put your effort and focus on. One of the big mistakes I see a lot of small business owners do, myself included, Cummings Appraisal Group Inc., is to put your surname in your brand name. And what that does is it kind of ties the business to you, and it doesn't allow it to be as sellable or as valuable, I think, as it could be if you picked another name like Valbridge, which isn't tied to a professional or the business owner itself. So anyway, I was, back at this stage of being at, 300 plus thousand was primarily my own efforts. I knew I needed to hire somebody. I'd reached a ceiling of what I could produce. And so I couldn't afford, I knew I needed administrative support and help. I also knew I needed support on the appraisal side with a technical assistant, appraisal assistant, if you will. And I hired a lady to come in and really help me half-time with both of those roles. She ultimately became my operations director, my office manager, if you will. And I then hired some appraisal assistants. I hired one, I hired a second, then I hired my first appraiser, I hired my second appraiser, I hired my third appraiser. And so this growth from 320,000 up to 1,162,000, which occurred over 3 years, really occurred fairly organically. We had, I'd already had a pretty good reputation with the branding around Valbridge Property Advisors and some technology and whatnot, continued marketing efforts. I had excess demand, and so I was smart enough to hire people to help alongside with me produce more. And then ultimately I got out of production with the appraisal assistants. We later called those analysts, my appraisers, ultimately hired an MAI and some reviewers. And so, the next really big step was recruiting and hiring people and learning how to delegate, learning how to be a good manager, learning how to be an effective leader. And I'll be quite honest, I really sucked at all that in the beginning. And, it showed up through attrition and lack of retention. It took me quite a while to actually learn what it really means to have a professional management system and develop a really good culture within a company. And those will be topics for future videos. But I finally did figure it out with the help of some coaches and some books and online learning. But in the beginning, it was a little bit of a rocky go. But I did hire people, I did delegate. And the good news is I was able to get myself out of production and move myself up more to the managerial level, and more importantly, really up to the CEO leadership function, so I could really focus more on strategic planning and goal setting and implementing our action plans, our quarterly action plans, to try and reach the goals we set in our strategic planning. The fifth step that I took was the introduction of some really important systems into the business. And in my business coaching with the Founder 2X and Appraiser 2X coaching programs, I do not focus on the technical aspects of the business in the sense of the production of goods and services, that what I would call client fulfillment or production. Most professionals and most of my coaching clients are professional service organizations, already know how to do the main core function of their business, which I came out of commercial real estate appraisal, so that's the core function. And but even though I don't focus on it, I think for any business, it's really important to look out beyond your business and see, is there any sort of line of business software to help you with your production process? Henry Ford with the assembly line obviously revolutionized manufacturing, and that concept of an assembly line is carried through over the years into every type of industry, product, or service that's been made or produced. And so whether you're a dentist or an orthodontist, there's specific line of business software for that profession. If you're an attorney in a law firm, there's line of business software to help you do what you do specifically in the legal profession. The same is true in the appraisal realm, whether on the residential side, which is a different type of software, or on the commercial side. But there are solutions that have been created that can help you fulfill your brand promise to your clients quicker, easier, more efficiently. And initially, I reached out and adopted a software program that Tom Armstrong developed called Narrative One. And ultimately, when we got together with Valbridge, we were fortunate to be able to acquire an appraisal report writing software company, DataPraise. And I then led the charge for the better part of 7 years, first as the Chief Technology Officer, then as the Vice President of Software and Templates, leading the charge with about 50 MAIs in total, working together as a team to build out specialized templates in Word and Excel that integrated with that software. So again, that was a difficult process in the beginning, because appraisers, by and large, are a little bit behind the curve on the technology adoption curve. But ultimately, everybody in Valbridge got on board with the software, made a huge difference. We saw an increase in efficiency of probably, on the low side, 20-25%, on the high side, 35-40%. So it was a huge efficiency boost with the line of business software. And then I had, even previously to Valbridge, knew that I needed a relational database platform to build out an assignment management system. The abbreviation I use is an AMS, to manage all the pieces of our production process: the clients, the RFPs, our quotes or bids, the ultimate assignment, the properties that it's attached to, the appraisers who are doing it. I needed a really good systemized software program and platform to manage all that. So I hired a couple of developers back in New Jersey with Juiced Technologies. I don't know if they're still around or not, but I decided to use the QuickBase platform, which is an Intuit product, the makers of Quicken and QuickBooks Online. Today, I would not use that platform. I would use, if it was a small firm, Notion. If it's a larger firm that's really growing fast, I would probably use SmartSuite not Smart Sheet, Smart Suite, to build out a no-code or a low-code relational database platform to manage all of the processes, if you will. And I, in fact, am building out a system for appraisers and professional business owners in Notion as we speak. The last system that I really focused on from the beginning when I hired my first employee was to document our business processes with these things called SOPs, or standard operating procedures, which pulled together either by department or by role would form an operations manual for a company, or what are known as playbooks for roles or functions in the business. So we spent a lot of time and effort in my firm developing those SOPs. And, as a result of all of this, I not only was able to grow from 6 to 7 figures, but I was able to grow from $1 million to nearly $2 million and sell my company for a very healthy 7-figure all-cash payday at the end. And so anyway, my passion today in quote-unquote semi-retirement is to help as many small business owners that I can, take their businesses to the next level and learn how to systemize things, learn how to leverage technology, learn how what professional management is, and really install or implement a true professional management system or business operating system into their business. So that's what keeps me up at night, what gets me excited. It's what I'm trying to do through these videos, through some mini courses. I hope to develop a community, hopefully of small business owners that can come together and be a support to one another, that I can get on some Q&A calls with and do group coaching and whatnot. So anyway, again, video 12 in my first 2 weeks on YouTube. Thank you for all of you that have subscribed already and are watching my content. I really appreciate it. Again, for those of you that are new, if you like what I'm doing, please subscribe and like the video. If you are in business for yourself, and it doesn't matter to me whether it's a solopreneur, professional services, some other type of small business, and there's particular issues, challenges, struggles that you're grappling with, if you could put those down in the comments section, it would really help me a lot in terms of the content and the videos that I'm going to produce, as well as I think some of these mini courses to address some of these issues. So I would really appreciate that. Finally, if you may be interested in business coaching, I do business coaching on a very select basis. You can find out more about me and what I'm doing on my website at calvincummings.com. Again, that's calvincummings.com. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. We appreciate your support very much. And anyway, thanks again. Take care.